This is the Blaze Radio on demand.
Hi, I'm Ron Paul, former congressman and presidential candidate. I'm here to tell you about a product that might just save your lives. It's a home freeze dryer from Harvest Right. With this great product, you can freeze dry the food your family loves, and it will last for 25 years. Our ancestors preserved and prepared for difficult times, shouldn't we? To learn more, go to harvestright.com or call 800-594-4635. That's 800-594-4635.
Glenn Beck.
The Blaze Radio Network.
Coming up in a few minutes, we have to talk about your fat clothes. And when you go out specifically and you buy fat clothes and you're like, I'm never going to be fatter than this, I'm keeping these in my closet as fat clothes. And when that time comes when the fat clothes no longer fit you, fatso.
It's not a good thing.
Not a good thing. But there are bigger fish to fry. We have Austin Peterson on the horn with us. Austin is the libertarian presidential hopeful. He is the last of three to be on the program, and you'll see him on the debate tonight at 5 o'clock on the Blaze. Austin, welcome to the program. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Just sitting around here in my fat clothes, Glenn.
Good. Yeah, don't play that game with me because we know you're young, you're handsome, and you're thin. So shut up. Just know that it's someday you're going to look just like us. Austin, you used to work at Fox. You worked with the judge.
Yeah, I was there right at the end of your tenure there, producer for Judge Napolitano.
And did we ever meet? And if we did, I remember it vividly.
We did. Like right at the end of your tenure there, you gave me actually a really huge backpack full of goodies right before you left, and I kept it to this day actually. So yeah, we got to speak a few times.
Yeah, of course we have. I am Austin. I actually am really thrilled because Judge Napolitano is a great guy to learn at the feet from, to sit at the feet and learn from, and that bodes well for you. Tell me why. How you're 35, 36?
35 years old, and if I am nominated, I will become the youngest presidential candidate in American history in the first millennial.
Unbelievable. Wow. Why are you running?
I'm desperate, Glenn.
I can't get a job, and
no, I'm trying to do the right thing for our country. And when I liked Ted Cruz, and I really loved Rand Paul, and when I saw the Trump train headed down the tracks, I was worried that if Trump did emerge victorious, that there would be no pro-life, pro-constitution, pro-liberty candidate on the ballot. So I'm fighting for the nomination of this party so that I can give Americans a real choice. And, I am young, and maybe I'm not a perfect candidate in a lot of ways, but I do stand for the Constitution. I do stand for limited government. And I can articulate these principles to the American people, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Austin, I have to tell you, you're making my heart skip a little bit. I mean, you're giving me a little hope that maybe there is somebody I can pull the lever for. Let's start at the beginning. You're a libertarian, and yet you're pro-life. Square that with many libertarians.
Well, Ron Paul really changed my mind on this because at first, I was caught up in the arguments about, personal sovereignty in the form of the woman. But then the argument came down to whether or not I wanted to be consistent in my philosophy and do all humans deserve the same rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So the question is it a life? It is a human. And I do believe that it is. It has separate DNA. And so I think that it is consistent to be a libertarian that is pro-life, and I'm arguing for that. I think it's impossible to please everyone, but at a minimum, we should say we should be morally pro-life, and then we should look towards what kind of policies can we potentially enact that would absolutely save lives. But first, we must be morally pro-life, and we should create a culture of life, and then we can start to talk about how we can return towards a more pro-life country, which is what I want.
So let me go here because you're talking morals. A lot of libertarians, let's say the Koch brothers are two of them, that really despise me from what I've heard. And the reason why they do, from what I've heard, is because of my religiosity. They don't understand somebody who can be religious and not want to jam it down everybody's throat. I am who I am, and you can be who you are. And Penn Jillette and I are good friends. And and we get along famously because he's not going to force me to be an atheist, and I'm not going to force him to become religious.
Right.
So
and I'm on the Penn Jillette side of that. But the Constitution gives us all the freedom to practice our religion as we see fit, or not to practice as we see fit. And I don't like the idea that we need to have a government that would require us to practice or not to practice, or that we should force people to bake cakes for people that they disagree with, or to perform ceremonies for people that they disagree with. Everyone should have the freedom of conscience. And while I may be secular, I don't think that people should be required to perform a ceremony if they don't agree with that. And that's what's great about the United States, is that you can practice your religion freely or not practice your religion freely. And I will defend religious freedom as Commander-in-Chief, as President of the United States. I will stand the ground. And I know it's controversial for me to take these positions, being pro-life and secular. I'm kind of rare as a unicorn, but this is what I believe, and I'm going to stand my ground no matter what.
Where are you on the issue of immigration, Austin? Are you an open borders? Like we talked to John McAfee yesterday. He's an open borders libertarian. Is that where you are as well, or?
Well, there's theory and then there's practicality. As President of the United States, I'm required to uphold the law. So while I've read all the studies from the Mercatus Institute and Cato about how we can live in a borderless world, and while that does sound fantastic to me, and I do think we need to streamline our immigration policy, I will obey the law. And now, that being said, I do have wide leeway to use my powers of deportation. Will I deport violent criminals? Absolutely. But I think it's time for us to have a conversation about how we can streamline our immigration system so that we can incentivize legal immigration. Right now, it is so difficult to become an American citizen that people break the law because it takes 15, 25 years sometimes. So I want to champion a more free market. If you want to build a wall, that's Donald Trump. Go for Donald Trump. But libertarians want to tear down walls. And to me, I think that if we just streamline our immigration system, something like the Ellis Island policies that we used to have, which had very stringent security checks, very stringent disease checks. But then when you were done, you were done, and that was it. And then you could be simply naturalized, just like my ancestors were, the Petersons, when they came through Ellis Island. And I think that that's what we need to be talking about.
Wow. Okay, let's go here. Your competitors, if you will, you're the other guys running for the Libertarian presidential nomination. They're big interventionists, as we are. However, neither one of them
non-interventionalists.
We're non-interventionalists, but we're also realists, and we know what ISIS. It wasn't the United States that all of a sudden gave these guys the idea. It is the Quran, and it is the crushing beginning in 1919 with the Sykes-Picot Treaty that really has put them in a place to where they are fulfilling prophecy in their head. So how do we deal with this war over in the Middle East and people who are crucifying children?
Well, the first thing that I do not want to do as Commander-in-Chief is use fear to try and expand the powers of the executive branch. Now, I will never act in such a way as to endanger the national security of the American citizens, but I think it is possible for us to have security and liberty, meaning that we should respect the Fourth Amendment, and we should not engage in warrantless wiretapping, and that is just how it should be. But when it comes to the national security interest of the United States, I will behave constitutionally. If there's a threat to the United States, I will speak with with the Joint Chiefs, and I will work with my military commanders in order to ensure that we follow the policy of the law. And if there needs to be military action, I will speak to Congress and ensure that we have congressional action first. That's what the Constitution says. Now, when it comes to an imminent threat to the United States, the president can act, but he must come to the Congress within 48 hours to justify any military intervention according to the War Powers Act. So no matter what I do, it will be legal, it will be constitutional, and it will be in the best interests of the security of the citizens of the United States. Because, again, I will not act to jeopardize our national security under any circumstances.
What do you do with the IRS?
Oh, boy. Well, I mean, there's my ideology is hack and slash, right? These are the people who were targeting us, Glenn. When I was working at FreedomWorks a few years ago, I was terrified because it came out that these institutions I was working at were being targeted by the IRS, and
Austin,
so I think it's time to clean house.
We've met through FreedomWorks, haven't we? Yeah. Okay.
Correct. I came to Dallas with Kibbe.
Yeah. Okay. What is your tax? Is your flat tax, fair tax? What are
I like Ted Cruz's plan. I like the flat tax. That to me is the real fair. That's real equality. Everybody pays the same flat rate. And truly, I honestly think we would get more revenue in the short term, and that extra revenue could be used perhaps to patch up the holes in Social Security, to maybe have a line item in the budget to pay down the debt. Because right now, because of the progressive income tax, one, we're punishing success, and two, our compliance rates, I think, are at historic lows. So perhaps if people understood how to pay their taxes, you might get more compliance, and then you could have higher revenues. So liberals shouldn't complain about moving towards a flat tax system because it might meet the goals of being able to solve the problems of the Social Security bomb that's headed towards us, as well as allow us to pay down the national debt. So I'm definitely on board with the Ted Cruz-style flat tax.
So far, Austin, I'm at this point. I need to ask you some couple of simple questions. Are you riddled with and half insane from syphilis, or have you killed interns? Because so far, it would take something like that. I mean, you are saying all the right things.
Yes, you are.
Pat's been saying for a while. I'm telling you, Austin Peterson's the guy. He's the guy. What is the? Let's go to find a hard one that we would be
about education.
Yeah, education.
Common Core.
Common Core. He's going to.
I hate you, Common Core. Okay, I really despise uniform educational standards.
Yeah.
I really think that we need the laboratory of democracy. Obviously, I would love to get rid of the Department of Education. If Congress were to send me such legislation abolishing the DOE, I would sign it in a heartbeat. I love homeschooling. I like the idea that parents take a more active role in kids' education. I think that's part of the big problem right now is that we rely too much on government to educate our children, which is why we have such an abhorrent educational system here in the United States today. So I would like to talk about vouchers as a way for us to get away from the big government style of schooling. So that's really where I am on that. Just straight down the line, libertarian.
What would you do with state land?
Well, I'd love to have the biggest auction that the United States has ever seen. There are so many poor and middle class in this country that if we had a nice auction and we allowed people to purchase land, they could take pride in personal ownership. And if Congress would allow me, we could sell off a lot of that land.
Pay
in
down
the West,
the debt.
and perhaps.
Hang on just a second.
Pay down the
wait.
debt. Plug the gap. Exactly. Pay down the debt.
Doesn't that land belong to the states?
No, much of it belongs to the federal government. What the feds did was they purchased it before the states were incorporated. So I think it's reasonable to have an auction so that and have the feds sell off the land to the citizens of the states. Perhaps the states could purchase it first and then divvy it up to their citizens appropriately. But this is why we have so much tension with the BLM and the Bundys, because the feds own this land and so they're responsible for it. And I don't really think that it's the job of the federal government to be in the business of land ownership. So if Congress were to allow me to do so, I would love to have an auction.
So where do you stand with the Bundys?
Well, I just, again, think that the federal government has just gone way too far. And the standoff at the Bundy Ranch, to me, is just a clear picture painted of the difference between the liberal approach to the conservative approach. Because, the students at Berkeley, when they all laid down and they were all there unarmed and defenseless, they got pepper sprayed by the police. But when the Bundys stood up and exercised their Second Amendment rights, the feds backed off. So that's what it means to be a well-armed militia here in the United States. So I tend to side with the Bundys, and I really would love to just get the BLM the heck out of the West.
Austin, why did you not work for me? Why did I not hire you?
The judge really had to have. He and I were so close. We worked together very closely, and I felt like a young revolutionary. He called me his the Freedom Ninja, and he said publicly that I was the right side of his brain. So I have such a love and affection for that man, and I've learned everything that I know about the Constitution from him. So yeah, I don't think you could have pried me away if you tried.
Would you? No, I doubt it. He's a brilliant man. I would have interned for him. Would you appoint him to Supreme Court Justice?
In a heartbeat, absolutely. Yeah.
How about
top of the list?
How about Ted Cruz or Mike Lee?
Absolutely. Yes, you're speaking my language. I also like Professor Randy Barnett from Georgetown Law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but another brilliant libertarian legal scholar. Those are the top minds. Of course, I'd be scared to nominate Cruz or Lee because I would love to have them sending me the appropriate legislation that I would need in order to cut government. So yeah, those are the guys at the top of my list. Limited government, fiscal conservatism, all across the board. It's the Calvin Coolidge style of governance that I'm talking about here. Maybe Grover, a little bit of Grover Cleveland in there, but I really am not a big fan of the Federal Reserve.
You have a very bright future in front of you. You have a very bright future. How are you doing with the libertarian base? I mean, is there any polling? How does the convention work?
Well, I'll tell you, we do have some internal polling on delegates, and it's looking like I'm a strong second. If I can make sure that Governor Johnson doesn't win it in the first round, then I think I can win it in subsequent rounds because there is quite a bit of support that has builded later on in the game, because originally I was getting crushed in the primary votes, which don't really matter. They're just beauty contests. But now in the later primaries, I started to win the primary states, and I've been taking full slates of delegates, even in the states where I lost. So there's a very good chance, Glenn, but man, it's getting down to the wire, and I could use all the help I could get.
When is that?
Next weekend over Memorial Day in Orlando at the Rosen Center. The Libertarian National Convention will occur, and we will battle for the delegates and the future of the party, and really it's the future of the country, because the Libertarian Party this year is the last hope for the never-Trumpers, for the social conservatives, for the Ted Cruzers, for the constitutionalists, for the moderate social democrats who don't want to have government involved in their personal lives. The Libertarian Party is it.
You have a website?
If I win the nomination of my party, I think it'll be the sign of a healthy new start.
Austin, how do people help out? How do they contribute and get involved in your campaign? Is there a website to go to?
Well, yeah, austinforpresident.com. Very simple. You can register as a volunteer there. You can learn more about my platform. Contact us directly. I call all my constituents. So if somebody sends me their phone number or email, I call them directly. Of course, donations are very helpful to help me to do my job down there in Florida. So you can donate. You can register as a volunteer. You can come to Orlando if anything. That would be fantastic.
Okay.
When articles appear on the Blaze that say, "Hey, Austin Peterson is out there running for office," that kind of stuff is big too, because it shows the delegates that there are people outside the libertarian movement that would support me, because we'll need this coalition. We'll need to reform the Tea Parties.
Austin, maybe we'll have you on again next week. I'm very interested in you, and you're fascinating. Maybe we can get you to fly out next week and come on the show and be here with us. Thank you very much. AustinForPresident.com.
Glenn Beck. The Blaze Radio Network.